right, race fans, Ryan Aho here and the one and only Bert Lehman. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Doing awesome. We're bringing you episode 58, ladies and gentlemen, of the One to Go show. Excited about that. You know, we're clipping right along here, and before you know it, we're gonna have 2 years under the belt here. I never thought we'd make it to year one, but Puka didn't. Hey, we love you, man, but hey, he's still heavily involved with the show. He jumps on, he makes special appearances, and he helps make some things tick here. I give him some crap, but I think we miss having Puka on the show every once in a while too. So, but hey, we can't start a show out though without mentioning one of our sponsors here. Frank Zulli. It's getting to be that time of year. We're right before Christmas. Racer wives, girlfriends, whatever it may be. Go ahead, buy the man in your life, or if you're a husband that has a wife that races, maybe it's the flip side of that. Buy your significant other, buy them an engine. That is one hell of a good Christmas gift. In fact, don't just buy any engine. Call Frank Zulli Race Engines, and I promise you, I absolutely promise you, you go ahead and you buy the significant other in yours, in your life, you buy them a race engine from Frank, they're going to be happy. I promise that they'll be perfectly content with that. Give him a call, and everybody I talked to that has one, Parker Anderson, I interviewed him last week, Justin Vogel, they're happy as heck. If they're happy with it, you'll be happy with it. Give Frank a shout. He'll take good care of you. So what do you think, Bert? I think that's a good Christmas present, don't you? Everybody's always wondering, what do you buy your significant other? And that's unique. Who buys somebody an engine for Christmas? I think that's a good gift.
I agree. I think you would definitely be in their good graces if you did that.
I think so. Now, just don't. And if you have to, just use their card for it. Just do what you do. Just make it happen. So, hey, let's get it. There was a little bit of racing here last week. Not a lot. We're getting close to the end of the year here, right? There's still races coming up, but not a lot left. And before you know it, we're going to be into January, and there's a bunch of stuff going on in January. So, it's kind of died down just a little bit. But now at Alltech, we're going to start off with Puka's favorite class, crate late models, right? This was a 602 crates down at Lake City, Alltech Raceway, and 50-lap feature, $5,000 to win. 19-year-old. I don't know if you saw that. I think you watched that race on Dirt on Dirt. Not real eventful, but a 19-year-old won that, Clay Harris. And looking back, I looked at my race pass. He's got several wins over the course of the year. There's a 12-year-old there, too, and I don't recall his name, but that 12-year-old's winning races, and it's like, I don't know if a 12-year-old belongs in a late model, but it is what it is. I guess it's their money, and I don't have to race against it. But Bert, what was cool about that whole deal? The racing wasn't all that terribly exciting. It wasn't bad. There was some passing. But it just wasn't overly exciting. But did you happen to see Victory Lane?
No, I didn't see Victory Lane. I did watch the feature, and it was one of those tracks again where it seems like every week we're talking about this type of a track. It was slick from top to bottom. But at least there were multiple grooves. The leader for most of the race was racing the low side, and the guy who actually won it was racing the high side and got by him on a restart. He was definitely the fastest car, though, because once he got by him, he pulled away. But yeah, I did not see Victory Lane. Just what you had told me. He couldn't get the full celebration in.
He couldn't. I've won several features in my life, and I've been down to Victory Lane, and I've gotten everything from, a case of beer. I've gotten a case of pop. I've gotten champagne. I got a bottle of wine. I got different stuff. But, hey, this is down in the South, right? This is down bootleggers down in the South. And, yep, you guessed it, MoonShine for this guy, right? So they're going to do it. And the kid was only 19. Can't drink moonshine. So his pit guy was down there, and they're like, all right, like, hey, here's the deal. They even called it out over, I got the video clip here, as you can see. But they called it out. They're like, hey, he's 19. He can't drink. So you're going to have to take one for the team. You're going to have a drink, take a swig down to Victory Lane. And you can see he just kind of winced a little bit, and must have been some high-test stuff. So MoonShine getting their done. Clay Harris down there at the Alltech Raceway. Now, there was some, I'm going to call it real late model racing. We're going to call it.
Well, before we get to the real late, have you ever had MoonShine?
I have not. Closest thing I had would be apple pie.
One of my friends made some moonshine. This was at, and he brought it to, in our small town, we have alumni games where people who graduate from the school come and play basketball in a basketball tournament. Anyway, he brought the moonshine to the bar. I mean, I just had a little taste. I don't even remember what it tastes like anymore. But he dumped a little bit on the bar counter and he lit it on fire. And I mean, it burns.
Yeah, that's high test stuff.
One of the funny things was an older gentleman who was up from Tennessee. You know, he's originally from Tigerton, but he lives in Tennessee at the time. He took a big swig, and it buckled his knees.
You know, hey, you get some of these street stock guys, Vogel and some of them guys. I tell you, dirt track world, they might have put a little bit of fuel in their float bowls, right? Like Hot Carl says. You get these boys some moonshine, right? And we'll find out what they're made of. So I don't know. They always say the northern guys can drink a heck of a lot more, but I think the stuff they drink down there is a heck of a lot stronger.
Yeah.
So it might have to be a little winter road trip. Maybe we'll have to get some moonshine for one of the invitationals up here and have a little drinking contest and see how that goes. Now, so hey, let's switch gears, Bert. Volunteer Speedway. And I kind of made fun of this deal a couple weeks back when they announced it over at Bulls Gap, Tennessee. It was night number 2 of the Extreme Dirt Car Series. $5,000 to win. Another day race. But I will say this: the racing was pretty good. It must have been cool enough temps, you know, and stuff to where it didn't glaze over. It's not 90 degrees out. Biggest problem for me with day race is getting out of bed in time. You know, like I'm not all about like getting up early, but you know, I know you watched that race. Why don't you kind of recap a little bit what you saw there over at Bulls Gap, and then I got a couple things I want to touch on as well.
Yeah, I mean, Bulls Gap is a racetrack that I've heard about, but I guess I don't think I've ever seen a race there before. I mean, that's actually a really cool track. That was I mean, it's kind of down in a bowl, it seems, and very high bank. Yeah,
I remember a T-shirt, Bert, that back in the day I was down there racing somewhere, and it said the baddest bull ring in the South, Bulls Gap is what it was, Volunteer Speedway, Bulls Gap. So she's a pretty good turn and burn up on the wheel. I mean, there's a lot of bank, a lot of side force there, and a pretty fast little racetrack for sure.
Yeah, I mean, last week we were talking about tracks on our bucket list. I think Bulls Gap would be a track I would like to see a late model race in person. But yeah, the race last weekend, Bloomquist led the first portion of the race, and apparently developed a hole in his radiator, and the engine temperature was increasing, so he pulled off, and him and Chris Madden were having a good battle before that. And Chris, you know, once Bloomquist was out of the race, Madden went on to win. But what was interesting, and I mean, you sent me some information about this, is Bloomquist was running kind of an experimental engine with the purpose of seeing how this engine would perform as according to the Bloomquist Racing Post, is that it used all shelf parts from racing companies, and it cost like $26,000 for this engine. And you may be thinking, $26,000, how's that making the sport cheaper? But I guess the normal engines I use are a lot more expensive than that.
Yeah, you're not going to buy an engine from Frank Zulli for $26,000. Okay, I promise it's going to be a lot cheaper. Get hold of Frank; it's still cheaper. But yeah, you're looking at 40, 45, 50. I mean, you're talking some major money for these big open motors for super. I guess we'll call it late model racing because it's really late model racing. But he recognized an issue, and actually, Cody Sommer, who works for Bloomquist, he kind of was tied in with this, kind of spearheaded it, and they realized, you know, costs too dang much. In most cases, when the tracks, especially a quarter mile or a 3/8 or something that's maybe not hammered down, you don't need that kind of power. I mean, most of the tracks, you don't need that. You go to Volusia, you're going to need that big thunder underneath the hood, maybe Bristol or something like that. But most of the time, you can get away with less. And, you know, I know a lot of the guys, they're running them open motors, Bert, and they're actually putting restrictors in them anyway, so they're choking them
Mhm.
down. So that tells you right there. It's like these people are spending $40,000-$50,000 on an engine and then detuning it. Well, why don't you just spend less? I mean, that just
Right.
makes more sense to me. And that's what they're trying to do. And Bloomer had a good run going. He did. He looked good. And Madden got by him, I think, lap 9, maybe something like that. And,
Yeah, something like that.
and then he pulled off. But he said, Bloomquist said he was pleasantly surprised with that
Yeah.
deal. And, the other thing is, I don't know what you think, but McIntosh was kind of there,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, he was never really right in striking distance, but I think if Madden would have, he got through lap traffic pretty good. I mean, Madden's been on his game, especially when he got into a rocket, right? He really, really got his season going. But the fact is, he got through lap traffic good. If he would have got held up in lap traffic, McIntosh was looking pretty good, especially off 3 and 4 on the bottom. He might have been able to make a little run at him there. So that was pretty cool. And Bert, you and I are both points guys. So why don't you talk a little bit about the points too? Who's leading that deal right now?
I'm not even sure who's leading that. Is Madden leading that right now?
High side tickler.
Okay,
Kyle Strickler.
Because I know when you sent out the agenda, you had said we were going to talk about who could possibly win that, and I did see that Strickler was racing in the feature, and he was battling in the front. And I mean, if he follows that entire series, I mean, I think that he'll definitely be in contention until the end.
Yeah, it's race 2 of 6. I think he ran most of the series last year, didn't he? I think he ran some of that last year.
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, so yeah, Madden won it. Madden is currently sitting 3rd in points. Right now, the point leader is Kyle Strickler, mod guy, right? And Benji Hicks. Now, I'm not familiar with that guy, but he's currently 2nd. Madden had a rough go of it his first night. He got like 12th or something on the first night. So he's currently sitting 3rd in the points. Madden looking forward to maybe a repeat deal, right? He won the series last year at the inaugural Driving Extreme Dirt Car Series, and he got her done. The Grinch 50, Christmas spirit, but he was the Grinch for everybody. And a kind of cool little, I'll give him hats off down there. Victory Lane. Did you happen to see the pictures? They had a Grinch down there and stuff. And
no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, really cool. And they really played it up because I think the crowd, the just interaction, the kids, they probably love the heck out of that. So, hats off to doing them extra things like that to kind of get some crowd involvement and, some neat pictures with the Grinch with the Santa hat on and stuff like that. I was pretty impressed by that. They really had fun with it. And I think that's what the sport needs. So hats off to the folks down at the Bulls Gap, I guess the Volunteer Speedway in Bulls Gap. So anything else on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with your comments there. I just want to also say that, when I was watching that feature, I mean, we all know that Chris Madden went through, 80 teams this last year. He's had different graphic schemes on his cars. But what I found kind of interesting was his car looks very similar color-wise to Bloomquist's car. And they both have the Dryden, because they both, that still sponsors both of them. So I just thought that was kind of funny that their cars are very similar color-wise.
They are. Hey, I'm going to ask you, though, before we jump off this, because I thought it was pretty cool, the little touch they had with the Grinch. In all the tracks that you've been to, have you ever seen mascots? Have you ever seen, different things like that, where getting the kids involved at any of the racetracks in Wisconsin?
Oshkosh Speed Zone used to have a kids club where they actually had a, you have the flag stand. They actually had a mini flag stand for kids. I mean, it was back further from the track, obviously, but kids could be up there, I believe, during the races. And the Dirt Kings Late Model Tour has a kids club. And if you go to a Dirt Kings race or you see pictures and, talking about Victory Lane, after a driver wins the feature, they get their crown, their cape, and then they sit in the chair, the big chair that looks like, that a king would sit in. And they actually have that chair set up where kids and fans can sit in it prior to the race and get pictures taken. So, that's kind of cool, involving the kids and sitting in the same chair that the winning drivers sit in.
I have an idea. So Jason from Dirt Kings, if you're watching this show right now, how about you get a couple, I guess they're swords or whatever, and have kids come down. I mean, we got to get past the COVID deal, which it's gonna pass, right? But what if they kind of knighted them or whatever, and had a couple kids kind of doing a knighting deal and handing them the trophy? Anything to get the kids involved is so cool. I remember Bemidji Speedway, and this is, about 2 hours, I guess, west of where I lived, or an hour left west of where Puka lives. And it's just kind of a small little local track. They kind of got a small operation, not a big money type racetrack. But when I was racing there when I was younger, they had a dude running around in a dog costume, and he'd interact with the kids and throw candy and get all the kids all jazzed up, and he'd be down in Victory Lane. And at first, when I was racing, I'm like, that is the dumbest thing ever. It's why? But the kids loved it. The kids at the end of the day, they're only watching the people they know. And they might only know one or two drivers out there. They don't care about anybody else. They don't care about any of that. They're like, I don't know who any of these people are. I want to watch Dad, and I want to watch Uncle Bob, and I know this guy. That's it. That's all they watch. The little kids anyway. But if you have a mascot of some kind that's interacting with the kids, keeps them energized, keeps it fun, I think we need more of that. And I think I was pretty excited to see that, really.
And I know there's some tracks in eastern Wisconsin that also let kids in Victory Lane and present the trophies to drivers. And oftentimes that'll turn into the driver winding up just giving the trophy to a kid. And, that's just a huge moment in a kid's life to be able to receive a trophy from, a racer that they look up to.
Yeah, it sure is. And I know Estes have done that, Skeeter and Mac both, and Travis Sauer used to run up to the fence in Fergus Falls and do that. And it's great to hand them the trophy, but then when you say, hey, come down to the car afterwards, and I'm going to make sure that you get this signed and get a picture with them, all of that interaction is what the sport needs. And it's tough to do, though, when you have 87 classes in a night, right? So there's a nugget for you right there. But overall, a good program. I was pleasantly surprised that the day race was good. It was a good event overall, and looking forward to night number 3 of the Extreme Dirt Car Series. And hey, we had a little asphalt racing, Bert. Normally, it's asphalt racing, and if you like asphalt better than dirt, it's really your own asphalt, and we don't really talk about it. But kind of a big show this time of year, and I've heard of it, but I didn't know much about it. But they had the Snowball Derby. It turns out, I didn't even know this until researching this. It's a 2-day show. Day 1, they have the Snowflake 100, which is kind of a limited class. Day 2, they have the 300 lapper, which is, I think it's, what is it, just super late models? Yeah, super late models. And why don't you touch on, you want me to touch on Saturday, you touch on Sunday, or you want to touch on both, or what do you want to do there?
I'll let you touch on Saturday, and
because Majeski. I'll let you touch on your Wisconsin boy. We'll do that. He's your boy.
Do you want me to go first?
I'll touch on Saturday because and then we'll go into Sunday. But okay, so Saturday, 100-lap feature. This guy by the name of Stephen Nassy. Now, keep in mind, I don't know these guys. Now, I've heard of Bubba Pollard. I don't know why, but I've heard that name before. But Stephen Nassy, for the second year in a row, Bert, was stripped of the win hours after, right? After Victory Lane. Not right in Victory Lane, not right after the race. It was a couple hours later. Now, last year, he actually was in the 300 lapper, right? And he came from deep. He came from the LCQ. He won that deal. That was the big race. I think it was $25,000 to win, something like that. And he went through tech, post-race tech, and they had a very, I'm talking very thorough tech inspection. So thorough that he had caps on his pistons, on his caliper. So they had to take the calipers off to see all this stuff. I mean, we're talking way, way teching, right? And it turned out he had titanium caps on there. 3 hours later, he was disqualified for titanium caps on his caliper. This one here, he's coming into the last corner, and evidently he's rivals with this Pollard, right? And, I don't know their history or their story, but they come into 3 and 4, and it's not like he just completely land blasted them. But, I mean, folks, you take a look at the video. It's playing here as we speak, but, the fact is he got into the leader, turns the leader around, and boom, he goes across. He gets first place. The leader, I don't know where the leader ended up even crossing the line at. He's given the win. He goes to victory lane, right? They reward him and all that. On the whole to-do, like he's the winner of the Snowflake 100. This was the Saturday race. It was a couple hours later that they decided that, yeah, you know what? We rethought this deal, and they actually gave him last place on the lead lap. So whatever that, and it was deep in the field, right? It wasn't last, but whoever's on the lead lap, he got put to the back of them. Jake Johnson gets the win. Now, on a call like that, Bert, that should be instantaneously, right? In my mind, okay, do I think it was the right call? Absolutely. I think if you take out the leader, you should get penalized. I'm sick of this whole sprint car rule deal where whoever stops goes to the back. I think that's stupid, okay? If you cause the altercation, there's consequences. You should get penalized for it. I believe that. And the reason World of Outlaws and some of them don't have that is they simply just don't want to make a call. They don't want to make a judgment call. And I really, truly believe in those traveling series that they do it politically, because if they make the call, if they have to start making calls and they bring their own officials to the racetrack, right? And pretty soon they're calling it on this guy and they're calling on that guy. Well, this guy's pissed off. He's like, well, screw you. I'm going to go race Lucas Oil instead of World of Outlaws. Okay? Now, if they don't have to make a call, they're like, I mean, you can't be mad at me. You stop on the track, you go to the back. That's just the rule. So it kind of takes away some of that drama, right? Because nobody can be mad. It is what it is. You can't be mad at the official. Well, I hate that. See, I get it. I get why they do that with the traveling series, but I just hate that rule because I'm a firm believer that if you do something wrong, you should be penalized. I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, you walk in and you rob somebody and you get caught, you should go to jail, right? If you dump somebody and spin them out, you should get put to the back. It just, to me, it just makes sense. And I kind of see, though, I mean, you see my point there with that traveling series? I really believe that there's something to that. I was talking there the other day with someone, and they said, do you think that if they started making calls, that some of those guys would get pissed off and go to the other series if they got a bad call? And I think there's something to that. What do you think?
Well, I think that's definitely a possibility. I mean, what struck me about this incident, and I mean, I watched it several times, and yeah, he dumped the leader, but it really isn't anything different than what almost NASCAR encourages their drivers to do. I mean, and that was my big issue, well, maybe not issue, but I know we've talked about this on the show before. You know, I don't believe in the bump and run. I think that if you're going to pass somebody, you should do it. I mean, yeah, there's going to be some bumping, but you shouldn't, if you want to pass them, you shouldn't bump them out of the way, is what I'm saying. And so I think from a driver's perspective, I think a lot of that comes down from the watching NASCAR and knowing, you know, every week it's like the announcers are even getting into, you know, when's the bump and run going to come? When's that going to come? You know, they help promote this. And then this guy, yeah, this was a little bit more than a bump and run. But, you know, he gets penalized for it. I know it's different. It's a different series than what NASCAR is. So, but, you know, it's just dueling views on what the proper way to handle it is.
Here's a question I have. I don't know if you know this or not. I don't. But I'm guessing that series has, I don't know if that was a non-sanctioned event or if it was a series. I don't know. But I'm guessing they have rules and procedures, right? Now, with that said, what is the rule? I mean, how does that work? I mean, it'd be kind of cool to look back at other races in that series to see what happened in similar situations, right? Now, did they do it because they got a hard on for this nasty guy and they say, you know what, we just don't like you and you're getting this, we're going to drop the hammer on you? but all of a sudden we find out and I don't know this to be true, but I mean, you see it all the time. Maybe 4 weeks ago, somebody had a similar deal. Maybe it wasn't for the win. Maybe it was for fifth, right? But on the last lap, they dumped the guy and they got I mean, is it consistent, right?
Right. Well,
that's the key. Are they calling it the same way every time? I don't know that, but as long as they are, then it's okay.
You asked the question, what is the rule? And the fact that they didn't make an immediate decision tells me that there isn't a rule, or it's a very vague rule. And I don't know this. I know there's a lot of chatter on Facebook, so I don't know if they took that into consideration or what.
There's a lot of variables. And that's the problem I have with it too, Bert, is if they're going to, it was obvious what happened. Okay, he got into it. Was it intentional? He probably tried to bump him a little bit. He probably tried to move him up the track. Why wouldn't you? You're trying to win the race. Why wouldn't you do that? That's just, you don't like that. I do. I'm a Dale Earnhardt guy. I just want to rattle his cage just a little bit, right? But the fact is he didn't smash him. I mean, the guy almost saved him. He bumped it. The guy, I mean, probably the tires wore out. It was the end of the race, so it was easy to lose traction, but he didn't like slide up into the fence. He didn't wad up the whole field. The guy spun out. Not a big, I mean, did he cause it? Yeah. Okay. But it wasn't a huge deal. I would have probably did the same thing. Why wouldn't you do the same thing? You're trying to win the race. But my whole problem is, being that they knew what happened, if they're going to make a call, just make it immediately. Don't wait.
Right.
Just the whole victory lane to do and all. I mean, that was a bad deal. The way that they went around that whole deal, and that's 2 years in a row that they had victory lane celebrations for somebody who was not the winner, and hopefully next year they don't have that issue again.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully they'll
Sunday
have.
was the big one, Bert. Hey, you're representing the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, from Seymour, Wisconsin, which is only about an hour away from where I live. I mean, I've followed Ty Majeski's racing career. I mean, I had never heard of Ty Majeski until I went. I was, as the editor of Full Throttle Racing magazine, we were only in like our second year or so with the magazine, and I went to our local go-kart track, which is only like 20 minutes from where I live. And the promoter of the go-kart track said, "Hey, if you're looking for a good go-kart story, Ty Majeski is here." Because Ty started racing go-karts at GSR Kartway in Marion, Wisconsin, which is 20 minutes from my house. And it was at that time he was just getting into asphalt racing, asphalt late model racing. So we actually featured him on the cover of Full Throttle magazine before anybody knew anything about him. So, I'm kind of, I'll say it, I'm kind of proud of that. I mean,
Full Throttle put him on the map. You put him on the map is what you did.
So I've been following Ty Majeski's career. I mean, he was racing NASCAR trucks for most of this last year. But I mean, he's definitely the most dominant super late model driver from Wisconsin right now. I mean, he pulls into any track in Wisconsin, and I mean, he's a threat to win anywhere. And last year he led the most laps at the Snowball Derby. And I believe this year was, but he didn't win. And I believe this year was his 7th attempt at winning that race, and he finally won it. But, I watched the final 5 laps of that race, and, there wasn't a dumping of the leader, but there was definitely some scraping and some rubbing going on. But nobody spun out, and, everybody finished, and there was no controversy. So it's funny because Ty posted on his Facebook page after his car cleared tech that he had officially won the race. He waited till after the car went through tech.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea with the track record that's going on down at that place. But that's pretty cool. The Cup champion Chase Elliott
Yep.
right? He got third in that deal. And then I looked kind of through the list. I'm like, oh, Kyle Busch got seventh, right? So that's a big win. Ty Majeski, getting a big win. That's a big race for him. Congratulations to him, and a little bit of rubbing at the end. I like having a little attitude at the end of the race for the win. So that's always pretty cool. And you got, I mean, obviously he was on Full Throttle Magazine, so that makes us a fan of him right away. But have you talked to him in recent years at all?
I haven't talked to him in recent years. I have interviewed him since that first story that we did on him, and I mean he's a super nice guy, very good interview. I should reach out and try to do an interview with him, and do another article about him.
Yeah, especially after winning that one. It'd be kind of cool to see if he can take that next step, right, and get up into the Cup ranks. I mean, he's certainly got the talent, and as a Midwestern guy, we want to see our Midwestern guys go down and steal all their moonshine down there, so to speak. Is what we want to see them. What we want to see them do. So that was pretty cool, and that kind of concluded the racing that I kind of watched over the weekend. But there was a little bit of news that come out. This kind of leads me to, I guess, Ryan's rant of the week, right? And the PPP come out. We got all this COVID. We're all sick of the COVID. We're sick of everybody that is functional, right? Is sick of politics. They're sick of COVID. They're sick of restrictions. They're sick of masks. They're sick of deaths. They're sick of all this crap, right? They're sick of all of it. But the PPP comes out. And basically this was intended, or supposedly intended, or advertised as such, that small businesses, big businesses, everybody could apply for this and get some extra money to help them kind of through these hard times. And, man, all I see is the rich getting richer. That's it. That's all I see. And don't hate the player, hate the game, right? I see people out there that they're getting these big checks, RCR. $6.3 million. What? What do they need? Seriously, the government's giving? Really? I'm arguing with people on Facebook about student loan debt reduction and stuff like that. We're talking 20, 30 grand, and you got RCR getting a check for $6.3 million. Chip Ganassi, just under $4 million. World Racing Group, 900 grand, right? Mark Richards Racing. Really? Mark Richards Racing? $232,000? Really? Mark Richards? How the hell did that happen? I mean, they made a ton of money this year. They won a lot of big races. They raced the better part of the year. They got their sponsorship money. They did their thing. And they get a handout for $232 grand? Some of the businesses on the list, hey, I get it, because some of them are small businesses. I happen to know them, and I know things slowed down for them. I'm not opposed. In fact, honestly, I'm not opposed to even any of these people getting the money. Again, don't hate the player, hate the game. But we all know people and we'll just talk about the racing community, right, as a whole. We won't talk about everybody, but in the racing community, we know a lot of people, a lot of small business owners that support racing, own race teams, own race cars. Their businesses still to this day are not open, right? And some of those people are self-employed individuals, right? Maybe in services, and they're not creating any income. Maybe some people are employees out there, right? And these employees, they're not getting money, right? But you got RCR getting $6.3 million, and we got people out there that can't even afford to pay their bills because they're not getting anything. The whole system's screwed up. It just pisses me off, and you see this, and you see people. I know there's racetracks that have gotten PPP money, and again, hey, God bless you, great. I mean, it was available. They're giving the money to somebody. You might as well try to go get it, right? Plain and simple. But it just leaves a sour taste in my mouth. It just feels wrong, to see some of these folks getting this kind of money. And again, it's not on them. To me, in my opinion, it's not on them. It's more on, just another broken system that the government has going. What's your thoughts on that, Bert?
No, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I don't fault the companies for, I mean, this system was created. They're just working within the system and to get this money. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I mean, I think the problem is with with our government, basically, with
There's a
creating
lot of problems with the
cre-
government. I think no matter what side of the political realm you
right,
fall on,
exactly.
we're all like the government is a complete disaster. I mean, it just is what it is, for sure.
I mean, they create these programs, you know, because we got to do something, we got to do something. So then, you know, they give all this money out. I mean, it says loans, but my understanding is if you follow the guidelines and everything, most of the money will not have to be paid back. So, you know, it's a broken system that we have, and unfortunately, there's really not a lot we can do about it. I mean, we can vote, but you know, once the elected officials are in office, whether it's president, you know, Congress, you know, even local state, local, you know, there's only so much that we as citizens can control. I mean, I know in Wisconsin, it's frustrating. I mean, you're talking about, you know, people who are out of work and can't afford to go racing and that sort of thing. I mean, in Wisconsin, there's a huge backlog in processing the unemployment, that there's some people who haven't received their unemployment from March because of the ineptitude of the government in processing unemployment claims. And I mean, it's just, the whole system is broken.
Yeah, there's no other way of putting that. You know, and the only thing that kind of gets me is you see all this, and it's like, I think the intent maybe is there by certain people. I mean, it's hard to, I don't live in their heads, but I think that everybody knows that there's people that were struggling that needed this money. And I just wish there was a way to kind of make sure that all happened. And there's simply not. I don't have the answers to it, but
Right,
people
exactly.
can look at the 2020 page on Facebook. Troy and Jonathan Powers, they got that page, and you know, there's a post on there that says NASCAR teams get PPP, and it kind of talks about all the different stuff. You can look on there and see all the numbers, and that doesn't have all of them, but it has several. And I don't know if it's public knowledge, all the people that have collected PPP money or not. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But there's some pretty big numbers out there that just made me go, oh, wow. You know, it's just crazy. So that's enough of that, because we'll get back to racing topic. That right there is just mind-blowing to me. I wanted to touch on that. But we do have some upcoming events. Okay, there's probably more than a couple, but there's two that would be considered a little bit, I guess, marquee type, bigger type events. And Saturday on Dirt Vision, Bert, the Driving Extreme Dirt Car Series making another trip down to the Livonia Speedway. That's night number 3 of 6, and I'm excited for that one. You know, that you're going to see kind of the same group of cars you just saw.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your pick? Who's your pick to win that one?
I am going to go with I'm going to take your mod guy.
You're taking the high side tickler, Kyle Strickler. I'll go ahead. I'm gonna stick with, I don't think Overton was there, was he? I don't think he went to that race, did he?
I did not see or hear his name at all, so yeah, I don't think he was there.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to go or not. So I'm going to go with the safe bet, knowing that he might not be there. I'm going to take Chris Smokey Madden. Boy, he's been running good in this series, trying to repeat as champ. This will kind of go through February. I think they got one more show in December, and then they kind of jump over to 2021. So you got the high side tickler. I got Madden. That is Saturday on Dirt Vision. And then we got another trip down. We talked about this place, Bert. This is we talked East Alabama, right? What is it? Phoenix City, Alabama. The East Alabama Speedway, the 48th annual Alabama State Championships. Now, the last time they had a race there, it was a absolute disaster. 10 classes of cars. And remember the prelim features, like all the I guess I don't know if you want to call them field filler classes, but the lower classes, they were like 50-lap features and stuff. I'm like, what in the world? I looked at it this time. I think they're practicing Friday, racing Saturday, racing Sunday, and at least they're still having 852 classes, 10 classes just for Puka. Puka, let me know if you need your flights arranged. I can get you down there. But the fact is, those features are all going to be like 25 or 30 now, which is a lot better. Now, I don't know what series this is, Bert, but 10,000 to win for late models. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe they can get some kind of a notable name, because you know that some of them are going to be down at Livonia, right? But
Right.
maybe drag in some kind of a, some kind of a big name. I think Joseph Joyner won the last big one down there, the last 10 grand to win deal, didn't he? With that last lap altercation deal. But there's a couple interesting things there. What's your thoughts on this race coming up? And then there's some pretty neat things here that I was going to talk about with this race. But what sticks out to you from what you saw?
Well, I mean, I'm hoping that they learned from that last event, and apparently they have learned from their last event, because they did shorten some of the features. And I don't want to steal your thunder with one of the things that they're going to do, because I know you're going to talk about it. But yeah, they're changing up their cautions a little bit if they run past their time limit.
You remember those cautions last time? I mean, there was a yellow and there was like 400 parade laps and people parking on the track, and they would drive in the pits and they'd like literally drive into their haulers, and it was like a free for all. It like took forever. And this time, what they're doing is everything except for the super late models, all the other classes are on a time limit for the A mains. And once they get past their time limits, they're counting caution laps. What? A 25-lap feature, they're going to count. That place had like 8 caution laps every single yellow. They'd be like, it's just weird to me. I mean, I get it. They're hats off to them for recognizing that there's a problem and they got to speed things up. So that's good. It's just kind of a weird way of doing that. But go ahead.
I mean, if they're going to count caution laps, I mean, after the time limit runs out, to me, they have to put some sort of limitation on how long they're going to wait for a car to change a tire in the pits. I mean, it should be caution comes out, line up the cars, and you're going. I mean, some of those cautions the last time were like 10 laps and just the caution alone.
Yeah, they were. And I don't know the answer to that, what they're going to do down there. My guess, if I had to guess, is maybe on everything below the super late models, once they get to that situation, maybe they won't wait for anybody. I'm all with not waiting for it. If you give them 2 laps at the very most, you don't need to give them any laps, though. I mean, not with 10 classes. Now, another thing that stuck out. So if you're wondering where this is streamed, jump on Facebook, go to the East Alabama Motor Speedway, to their Facebook page, and you'll be able to get that information. There's a new streaming service down there. I don't remember the name of it. I know Jeff sent me that over, but I did not write that down. But you can go to their Facebook page and get that. It will be live streamed. But the races, 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Like, there's no way. We're talking like they practice Friday, race Saturday, race Sunday. Half the people I know at the racetrack would still be they'd still be drunk at 10 a.m. Not hungover, drunk. So we're talking 10 a.m. start time. That is just absolutely mind-boggling to me. That's with hot laps and all that, but 10 a.m. start time. I've never seen anything like that. Not even on a rain-delayed race. Not even where it rained out the night before and then they started. I guess Boone would be the only thing that I've seen where they raced that early, would be Boone. But 10 a.m., I'm like, I'd be the guy starting on the pole going, man, I hope my features last, right? Because I won't even make it. There's like no way. I remember, Bert, the Labor Day shootout in Hibbett. They used to race at 3 o'clock Saturday and 3 o'clock Sunday, and draw cutoff was 1:30, right? Well, I'd stay up the whole night the night before going through everything in the shop, and like I'd roll in at 1 o'clock and I'd be going, all right, we're about ready to go here, right? 10 a.m. There's no way. That makes no sense. And and hopefully it works out for them, but boy, I would have a hard time thinking they're going to get fans at 10 a.m. Unless they're used to that down there, I don't know. I mean, that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I just don't. I mean, I get it. They're starting that early, and they got that many races, but it just, I don't know. 10 o'clock in the morning.
The only time that I was ever at a race that started in the morning would have possibly been a Punky Manor one year, because both Friday and Saturday night got rained out, so they ran the entire show on Sunday. So I would imagine they started at least late morning. But I mean, obviously that's different circumstances because there was a rain out, but or two rainouts. But when you're scheduling at 10 a.m. because that's what you want to do, that doesn't make any sense.
No, not at all. Not at all. Now here's the deal, Bert. So that race right there, I'm interested to see how that worked out, because that was pretty cool seeing Joseph Joyner get that win. There was some drama at the end. I will see how it goes. There are less laps on the racetrack. It'll probably be better than it was last time. It's cool to see another 10,000 a win show. And I actually jumped on their page. I watched their Facebook Live, and they kind of, surprisingly, they do things different, but they kind of have it together. Like they were pretty well thought out. They're pretty organized, and I was pretty impressed with some of the things they had going on. I don't know about the whole 10 classes and some of that stuff. I mean, that's not my cup of tea, but hopefully it's a success. There's not much racing this time of year, so hopefully that can go off well. I think this was a postponed deal. I think this was canceled earlier in the year and pushed back here. So hopefully it goes well. I don't even know who's going to be there. But it'd be kind of cool though to see that Hunt the Front team maybe steal Victory Lane again. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what drivers are going to be there. It will be interesting to see if a national driver or two do show up there. I mean, for this track to have 10,000 to win shows so close to each other, I mean, you would think that financially they're successful. But I mean, you don't know that for sure, because sometimes tracks will just do stuff and
maybe they got a couple $100,000 in PTP money. Just saying. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, I hope it's successful to them. I mean, I never wish ill will on a racetrack because I mean, both you and I are race fans, so I mean, we don't want any tracks to disappear. Well, I can't say that that's never been the case. When I was racing, there may have been some "I'm going to burn your house down" moments and stuff like that. So, I had some shining moments in my racing career where I did wish ill will. I remember I wanted to burn the grandstands down a time or two, and never did. Right, but the thought maybe crossed my mind just a little bit. I don't need counseling for that. I'm over that now. But hey, that brings us to the last lap. Okay, there's some pretty cool stuff happening on Bristol. Okay, now typically they're like, it's Bristol, NASCAR, stupid. But for the third time, dirt. Now we already know they're going to put the Cup cars there, right? But this week, what did they just announce? Did you see the announcement? Did you get all the information on that?
Yeah, I mean, I did see the announcement. I mean, once NASCAR released the schedule that they're going to race dirt at Bristol, I think we may have even talked about it on the show that you knew they had to have some sort of. You figured that some sort of dirt things or dirt races other than NASCAR would be taking place there also. And yeah, it was announced today that the Bristol Dirt Nationals will be taking place the week leading up to the NASCAR event. It sounds like late models for sure. There's going to be other classes. They really haven't finalized the classes yet. But my understanding is it's not sanctioned by any one group though. That it's going to be an unsanctioned race. Yeah,
that's the understanding. Well, I think what I read is they haven't announced any kind of sanctions. So I don't know that that's going to be officially non-sanctioned, or if they just haven't really crossed their T's and dotted their I's on what that's going to be yet. Same thing with the support classes. One thing that's for sure, it's going to be on XR. This is a sister track to the track in Vegas. XR promoted, of course, the Duel in the Desert out there, the IMCA deal. Barry must have created a relationship with that group, and now he got his foot in the door down at Bristol. So hats off to him. That's going to be a cool deal. And 2000, there's a few late model races in 2000. Dale McDowell, was it Cat Daddy? Is that what they call him? Dale McDowell. I think, is that his name? Or Matt? Is it Cat Daddy or Mac Daddy, or what do they call him?
Mac Daddy. Cat Daddy is Clint Smith.
Yeah, that's what you're right. Mac Daddy. There you go. So here we go. Burton, Jeff's the late model expert, not me. I just got talking. So, but Dale McDowell, he got her done in 2000, and then in 2001, I didn't even know this, but they had 3 races there. Bloomquist won 2, and none other than the Iceman Jimmy Mars. He parked it in Victory Lane in 2001 as well. So, it's a long ways looking in. It'll be kind of cool to see what kind of interaction. And I'm here to tell you there's going to be modifieds there. Whether it's IMCA or UMP or a combination like a conglomerate, I'm not sure, because I know that there's been Facebook stuff going on, and there's a whole bunch of IMCA guys going, I want to go. There's USRA guys wanting to go. UMP guys want to go. I don't know if they're going to try to do some kind of a conglomeration, or if they're just going to say, look, this is the region we're in. It's going to be this. But there will be some modifieds. There'll probably be some other classes as well. But it'll be interesting to see. I think it'll be a pretty good turnout. And
they might as well just race them all. Let's have like 10 to 20 classes there.
Absolutely. You gotta have Hornets, you gotta have rear wheel drive mini stocks, you gotta have winged mini stocks, you gotta have super stocks, you gotta have IMCA stock cars, Wissota street stocks. Yeah. No. I definitely don't. Please don't do that. 3 classes at the very most. That's his show, but 3 classes at the very most would be, I think that would be perfect. Now,
well, I want to make one comment. I'm curious. I was just thinking about this. I'm curious to see how technology over the last 20 years has changed, because when they raced there previously, if I remember correctly, they were popping tires and popping motors like crazy down there. So it'll be interesting to see if technology has lessened some of that on the, now that we're like 20 years past where we were.
Well, it is a big half mile. And the place is fast. I think they're breaking wheels there too, weren't they?
Yeah.
It's a wicked fast racetrack. It's a big half mile type deal. So I guess we'll see. I mean, I wish they would take that's the smallest NASCAR track you have is a half mile, I guess. But I still think half miles suck. So it is what it is. It's kind of cool that it'll be there. There's a lot of drivers that said, there's some prestige involved with going to Bristol. So it'll be a cool event overall. But I guess just knock on wood that 2021 is different from 2020, and all this stuff can actually happen, right? That's what I'm hoping. So did you see the World of Outlaw news? So, Keith, I did not forget about you, buddy. We're going to talk a little bit about sprint cars for my buddy, okay? The crowd pleaser, Craig Delansky, has thrown his hat into the ring, right? And he is going to be the new promoter down at the Dodge City Raceway Park in Dodge City, Kansas. He done lost his mind, okay? Like, I think it's cool, don't get me wrong, but a sprint car driver probably hit your head one too many times, and you want to, that's a headache. Being a promoter of a racetrack is a headache, but it's kind of cool. You see a lot of drivers kind of take that next step, right? I did. I kind of got into the promoting side of things. A lot of drivers have taken that next step and transitioned from driver to track promoter or series promoter or whatever it may be. And Delansky, Minnesota guy, right? Right down by Princeton. I think Elk River is where he's from. He's going to be doing that. You got any thoughts on that? And then I got a couple things that I do have thoughts on.
Well, I don't know a lot about the situation, but I mean, we were talking about when drivers become promoters that there's a different mindset. There's a driver mindset, there's a promoter mindset, and sometimes those mindsets clash. And which mindset wins over? Maybe you can answer that.
And then there's a fan mindset, right? So there's all these different hats that you wear. So there's There's drivers that are successful. There's field fillers, mid pack guys. Nothing against them. There's just those core groups. There's rich racers. There's poor racers. There's diehard fans. There's casual fans. There's people that never been to a race. There's sponsors that sponsor a team. There's sponsors that want to drive business in their front door. There's such a wide array of people involved, right? And a lot of times what I see is when a driver, especially a successful one, becomes a promoter, everything to them is like, oh, big show, oh, big show, oh, big show. And they kind of lose sight of like trying to get more fans built and all that. And everything's like a big special, and they want to go big. And that's all fine and good. And that's just a natural progression. That's what happens. But there's a switch that flips, and pretty soon they have that aha moment. And they're like, okay, all these big shows are great, but all we're doing is we're taking race fans from a 100-mile radius and we're bringing them all to our track. I'd really like to challenge somebody to get creative to try to build new fans. And you don't see that a lot of times. But one thing that he talked about in the article is he wants to build the fan base. I was excited to see that. I wish him the best of luck, and I look forward to, hopefully there's some streaming stuff. I probably won't make it down there, but hopefully we're able to watch a race or two in 2021, and hopefully he does well. So, late model news, Bert, Ricky Weiss.
Yes, this is something that you've been on top of for a while now, and it was finally announced that he will be racing his own chassis in 2021. He'll be following the World of Outlaw Tour again, but he will not be racing a Team Zero car. He'll be racing his own chassis. So that's going to be interesting because, I don't know if he's going to have like a base chassis and then just make his changes to it, or if he's just starting completely from scratch. But my understanding, he's going to be the only one running it, correct?
Well, that's all we know for right now, right?
Okay.
I would say he won't be the only one running it. There'll be somebody else in there. I don't know who, but I'm sure the goal is to have some other drivers in it. And I will say this, Ricky Weiss, one hell of a race car driver, 5-time WISSOTA late model national champ. I think it was, what did he get, third last year in the World of Outlaws, second this year, right? So he parked in victory lane a couple times this year. He's progressively getting better. He had a legitimate shot to win down at Eldora this year. He was leading. He hurt a motor down there. So, he's a good race car driver. He's got a lot of experience. He's got some people that are tied into this program that are knowledgeable. So I think he's going to do good. He was missing a little bit, honestly, in my opinion, with that Bloomquist car. He was off just a little bit. From what I saw, like a little mid-corner push all the time with all them Bloomquist cars. Maybe he makes a little adjustment. It's not going to be exactly the same. Could be a little worse. Could be a little bit better. But I think it's going to be a step up because I think that Bloomquist car was really holding him back. And I think if he would have been in – I think if he would have been in a Rocket, he wins 5-6 more features this year.
I agree with you that he was off this year. And, we've discussed this a lot on the show that, we don't think that the Bloomquist car was helping him, that it was actually hurting him. The thing I fear is, there's a lot more responsibility when you're building your own chassis. And, I think, before Darrell Lanigan started building his own chassis, he was winning all the time. But he
different deal. Because Ricky's not going to be the welder. I don't know what Lanigan did at his shop either. I don't know the situation on there. But they got a welder coming in. They got a fab guy. Ricky's not the money guy. There's a money guy behind that whole deal. So Ricky's still just a driver. He's going to have some input. He's not going to be the business guy doing all this. He might deal with a few drivers or whatever. But the fact is, it's more of there's other people behind this. He's just kind of the face of it, so to speak, from what I understand.
As long as
don't get me wrong, he has some knowledge too. He'll have some input on how to make the cars better, right? But he's not the main finance behind that deal.
As long as he can separate driver and chassis builder and still be able to concentrate on driving and winning races.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, and I think he's going to do better. I guess we'll find out. I think it sounds like he's going down to Volusia. That will be his kind of his first step down in January. That's where they're opening up, isn't it, for the World of Outlaws? In literally just a handful of weeks away down in Volusia. Mm-hmm. So he'll be down there. We'll find out soon enough. And best of luck to our friend from north of the border there. And I'm going to end up with some bad news here. And I wasn't going to mention this guy, but Jeff shot it over to me. And you remember the Conley name? There was Delmas Conley and RJ and Rod Conley. They were number 71, so they had to be cool. JT Conley, 31 or 32 years old. I guess yesterday he passed away. I don't know the details what happened, but tough deal in the world, and I guess the late model world, because the Conley name has been a pretty big name in dirt late model racing for a long time. I mean, I remember that name for years, and this kind of one of the younger one. I don't know. I guess Delmas would have been Grandpa, and I don't know who was his dad, but thoughts and prayers to them. But something that hits a little closer to home for me is so Kyle Peterlin, racer of the 23 late model, he ran supers, heck of a racer. His grandma Carol passed away, and she has been the Peterlin family at the Hibbing Raceway in our area, Proctor, Superior, Grand Rapids, all that area. They've been around racing for over 40 years, probably getting close to 50 years. Gabe and Carol, they used to sponsor several race cars throughout the area, national champion race cars, and Gabe and Carol been going to the races for a long time. And I just want to give my condolences, good friends of mine, to the Peterlin family. It's a tough loss for them, and with the COVID stuff, it just made the whole deal was just difficult. But she lost her battle here today, actually, and my thoughts and prayers go to them, and best wishes to everybody at Peterlin Motorsports and Kyle Peterlin Racing.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers definitely to both the Conley family and the Peterlin family.
Yep, and actually, little side note on Carol. Years back, they had a woman's auxiliary at the Hibbing Raceway, and I don't know exactly what her role is. I was pretty young, but I remember my mom was in it, and so my mom and Carol and several of them. But they actually had booklets and point sheets, and they did all kinds of pretty neat stuff, and little fundraisers and stuff for the racing community. So she's been involved for a long time, and just sad to see her go. But hey, that's episode 58. We got a little bit of racing coming up. Phoenix City, Alabama. East Alabama Speedway, and of course Livonia. That's my one. If I had to say I'm looking forward to something, it's that one. Livonia,
I would agree.
Yeah, so that's coming up here. That's going to be on Dirt Vision, and I'm guessing that if you can't catch it on Dirt Vision, if you don't have Dirt Vision, it'll probably be on the next day on Dirt, right? I think it usually ends up that way.
Right.
So any closing thoughts there before we close out?
Well, I mean, I was looking at the calendar today, and it's crazy. We have a full week next week, and then it's Christmas week already. And I saw Ben Shelton had posted on his Facebook page that he's already preparing his stuff for the races in January in Arizona. So, we may have a little bit of a lull right now in racing, but it's going to pick up real fast.
It is. And I'm going to knock on wood. I'm working on some details. I'd like to get down there. I might make it down to that deal, the Wild West Tour myself. I'm working on that. We'll see how it goes. And coming up, race fans, we are going to be doing, okay? As you saw, we've been doing our late model show. We got one more to break down that we're going to be talking about the Central Minnesota. Then we're going to break down the top 25 late model drivers in our region. But we also have a best of show that we're putting together right now, kind of moments of 2020. And shout out, shoot us some stuff over, whether it's on text or Facebook or however you want to get a hold of us. Shoot us a message. If there's something that stuck out to you in 2020, type that in. Let us know. And Bert, I got one more thing I want to add is, kind of like to add a little segment. This is an idea that we got from one of our listeners, and he said, "What if that you did like a fan interaction deal, right? And like maybe the fans have and actually it was Dennis from Den's Auto Body up there in Duluth. And he says, Ryan's rant, because we were talking about that. He's like, what if you had a fan shoot over a message? They can shoot it over on Facebook. They can text it to one of us if you know us. But if you have a topic and you're like, what do you think about this? Or maybe a list of questions, right? Maybe we'll take 3-4 questions a week that people might have in the racing world, and maybe we have an answer or give you our input on it. But kind of be fun to kind of get a little bit of interaction there. So don't be afraid to hit us up, in the comments, or shoot us a message, get a hold of us. If there's something you'd like us to chat about, if you have questions on something, let us know. And I kind of have fun doing something like that. What do you think, Bert?
No, I agree. I mean, the whole reason we're doing this podcast is for fans to listen to it. And we want to be talking about things that they want to hear about. So, yeah, if you have any ideas, suggestions on topics that you want us to discuss, send them, message us on our Facebook page, or just put it in the comment section, and, we'll be sure to take a look at it. And who knows, we may just discuss it.
Absolutely. So with that said, there's episode 58 in the books. That is the Bert Lehman. I'm Ryan Aho, and like our buddy Puka always says, go out there and be your dream, and we'll be back at you next week.